Good afternoon. Welcome to the People Purpose Place. We've got our full three amigos back today, which is exciting. And People Purpose Place is looking at the solving our home one group at a time. So, with the three amigos back in the room, I spoke too early. I've killed one of the amigos with the technology glitch, but probably a good chance for you're away last week, Rowan. How are you?
Yeah, fantastic. Fully rested. Stuck a few kilos on at the buffet, so life's in a good place. But
Yes.
sort of got anticipation or excitement about launch of the website and the actual formation of this
Yep.
whole program into a let's get it rocking and rolling kind of stage.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you pointed on there is very, very true. So, obviously today's episode is specifically about the fact that our website is getting closer. So we're not far away from our ability to start showing people. And we wanted to talk about the website in that process of talking about maybe discuss some of its challenges and that sort of stuff as well. So our intent today is to provide an overview of what people will be able to get by accessing our website. So, as you said, it's one of those things with websites you sort of never quite feel that they're ever ready. So to some extent, you're better off going with this. Christine's had her usual check back.
Check out and check in.
How are you going?
Who knows? Technology. I'm here.
And the glitch. Absolutely. So a very good point. This is we'd had a bit of a just seeing where Rowan was last week with the idea now that we can actually have a check. And I've gone back to a traditional check-in for us, and this is obviously modeling some of the practices that we like to include in the process. And this one is, what do I have to leave behind to be present today? Rowan, did you want to add something in?
So having a few days off has the unfortunate impact that the elves don't answer the questions and the emails and the phone messages when you come back. So there's a big long list of stuff to attend to. And that's getting into the, doing the business stuff. But these conversations, and I need to leave that behind because these conversations are fantastic to get clear about how we need to present the idea for people to take it up and actually deliver housing solutions for themselves. So leave behind the doing is what I need to be present for now.
Christine?
I think I need to I need to just let go of it's going to be a busy week for us and for me in particular. Yep. And I think I just need to let that go a little bit so that it's not weighing on me whilst we, always the perpetual question for someone who's been ill is, do I have the energy? And I'll just assume I do. The universe will take care of that. I'll just drop that bit. How's that? And Darren, you were a little bit glitchy when you spoke before. So when you check in, we'll see whether you're still glitching.
Yeah, cool. And I think your segue of the universe must have been quite poignant for me because I got up this morning and started to do the work stuff and noticed a fair amount of anxiety this morning for some particular reason. So just with going past, nothing super important, but I went and did my a bit of mindfulness from Sam Harris, and surprisingly enough, he starts off with, today we're gonna just sit with the idea of impermanent life, and I was like, well, how does the universe know that I need to have this conversation right now?
Right now
to be able to let go of those right now, this very second, let go of those things to be back into the moment and let all of those other things that will be impermanent pass by so that we can concentrate on the here and now. So sometimes the universe taps you on the shoulder for sure.
Yeah.
So Rowan has really been the the lead certainly on getting our new website close. But the first question that I had to sort of talk about the website, Rowan, was, what are we actually trying to achieve by getting a website out there for People Purpose Place?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And there is, it's a resource that gives people hope that there's a housing answer for them, that they will need to return to time and time again to actually construct their own solution. And their own solution starts with thinking about themselves. And that's probably as much as anyone could possibly take on day one. The problem with housing at an individual level, in the majority of cases, is not the government, it's not interest rates, it's not the banks, it's not any of that sort of thing. It actually largely starts between our own ears. And if you can't handle that, that's probably enough. You go, okay, well, I'm not interested in delving between my ears to understand why I view housing the way I view it. Everything's fine. Well, continue doing what you're doing. That will be the answer for some people.
Yeah.
For others,
for most people, I think.
Yeah,
for most
absolutely.
people. I think what we're offering is unusual, and it'll be a niche offering because not everybody's going to be interested.
And for those people who are impacted by the change in the superannuation tax concessions, above $3 million in super,
I don't think they care
into this at all.
Yeah,
That's
they can buy a second house. They don't need to worry about their first house. They can buy a second house, or maybe a third.
However, that group is only about 80,000 people. So it's a big number. But of 25 million, there's a lot of other people who that has no impact on.
Yeah, absolutely. And most of the people go ahead, Darren.
You're right. No, you're right.
Most of the people who are interested in something different are probably not amongst that 80,000. Some of them will be, but most of them, the ones who've been pushed by need to try something different, they won't be among that 80,000. The ones among the 80,000 who are open-minded and think, I'm well off, I can do what I want to do. How about making a better life for myself with my assets? They might be interested, but it'll be a small number.
Yeah,
that's my conviction.
Yeah. And you both put some really good points there. And it was, yours was well articulated, Rowan, to start off with. And if I'm paraphrasing what you both said there, is it does sound like we want to speak to the people who actually need to hear what we're proposing, that there is an opportunity not to do what has been done before. And if you're in that situation of going, hey, this existing hand just doesn't suit me and I can't navigate through an alternative, and can I find people like me? And in difference to that 80,000 people who wouldn't get this probably 100% and absolutely, that's maybe Vesta. There's probably millions of people in the middle of Australia who are going, wow, I just saw my interest rates go up again. Maybe this could actually be something that I need to be paying attention to. So,
and I guess if I could jump in there,
and I actually had another question.
Just if I could jump in there, Darren, for a moment. When we think about the existing marketplace, and I had this conversation with a politician just earlier this morning. And I said, to be clear, that just thinking about Australia in general, there's 25 million people, of which more than half of the households have a financial stress, whether it be the next rent increase within the next 12 months, or my mortgage becoming untenable in the next 12 months. That is a background stressor that just eliminates those half of our households, more than half of our households, from having their best thinking. Because when you're in panic, fight, flight, freeze, response, fawn is another one that they throw into that collection. We aren't thinking at our highest self about what's my best use of my artistic talents, or what's the best book I could write or creation that I could produce. We're thinking about survival.
Yeah.
And that's a huge constraint on all of Australia.
Just all of society, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a little bit about what Christine and I were talking about last week, this idea of using housing as a way to honour individualism in a true sense, as well as then bring that together in community or communitas maybe as an option. So, and I had a question here as well, and this is probably more a philosophical question, because it's not like we like to start talking about philosophy too much, but what is the purpose of a website in today's world, do we think?
Interesting.
You're still a little bit glitchy, Darren. Is there anything Colby can do about your bandwidth?
I'll read the question again just to make sure that all those bits got through. But
I think
what is the purpose of? Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll just have to check any other bandwidth just to make sure that I'm coming through loud and clear. Can you hear me okay, Rowan?
No, again, a bit glitchy, but right now you're good.
Cool.
To answer the question, what's the purpose of a website in today's world? I'm reading the book Stolen Focus. So he's incredibly insightful about the evolution of websites and technology generally, and how they're currently almost entirely focused on attention capturing device trickery. So when we created anything new, so was it Oppenheimer, the invention of the nuclear fusion, he thought that's an unlimited power source and how good for humanity that will be, and then had the grave realization how people were going to use that and gone, oh my God. We're probably experiencing that with technology this is a very worldwide view, but we're probably starting to have some of that realization now about our stolen focus, the time we spend browsing, and that's by deliberate design of all of our technology platforms. So a website typically is designed to capture people's attention and suck them into the website.
Yeah.
By fair means or foul. I think our business philosophy, and we're a non-for-profit around improving people's lives with housing, is probably not to do that, but is probably to allow people to pick up the necessary threads, conversations, discussions, information, resources with a toolbox to actually develop your own individual understanding of what housing could be, and then to seek your tribe or group or collection of 5 like-minded individuals to actually deliver that for yourself. So that's a very big purpose.
That's a big purpose. Now, when you say Stolen Focus, that's that latest book by Johann Hari, right?
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
recommend it. So I've hesitated to buy it, but I love Johan Hari's book, so I'll buy it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'd absolutely get hold of it.
Hmm.
And what
Easy.
crystallized, and he said some of his research is being debated by scientists, so he's on the edge. But a really crystal clear clarification in his book says Facebook would have the ability within a day to add this functionality to Facebook, which would be turn on your location and see who's friends, connections, acquaintances on my Facebook who are in the geographical area near to me. Could we catch up for a coffee? Could we go and watch a movie? That's so doable. So easy. Why isn't it done?
They don't want you off Facebook. They don't want you going and having a cup of coffee. No real life. It's the metaverse. You fool.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, that is actually a function on Snapchat. So I hear the kids actually will quite often catch out some of their mates who are saying, no, I can't do this tonight or can't do that tonight because I'm, at home doing this. And then they turn on the Snapchat apps and there they are at the pub or whatever might be the case. But you're right. I mean, gotcha. So yeah, I mean, it's about for Facebook. You're right. I mean, it's very much about keeping you there longer because of the fact they can flow more ads past you. Whereas, obviously, Snapchat is a very different platform. But they're really good comments, Rowan. Because my thoughts were that I was hoping that, in difference to being a trapping device, that our site could actually be a wealth of information. I wrote down here, there is another way to live. And if you want to find out what that is, well, then spend some time. I think we've sort of said, no matter what we do, whether it's a podcast or any other piece of content we're putting out there, or even the process itself, that's not something that can happen quickly. So don't just come onto this website, hope for some clickbait to be able to pass on to your friends and move off. Did you have any thoughts about, whether you think our website today is from what it used to be?
Just ask that question again, please, Darren. You went a little glitchy. So do you think in today's world has a different purpose what maybe previously? Is that you think is the case?
I don't know if that's any better.
No, that wasn't any better. I can't quite understand the question. Sorry.
So has the purpose of a website changed in today's world, Christine?
Oh, since websites first started. Well, it seems as though everything is about attracting attention these days because stolen focus. Johan Hari said it. Our focus has been stolen by all of these opportunities available to learn new stuff, experience new stuff, but it's all this manufactured experience. And the question is, what's a website for anymore? It's for manufacturing an experience. And I think we too want to enable people to manufacture an experience of coming together with up to five other individuals, and forming a household that becomes a home. Not just a home for an individual, but a home for a collective of individuals. So that has privacy and communality. Communitas, as Darren so interestingly labeled it the other day. But is that what websites started out as? No, they were just a business card to begin with. They were just a way to find you. And now they're a way they know that everybody knows, every website decider knows that his requirement is to capture your attention for long enough to keep you off Facebook and on that website for long enough to to sell you something. And of course, we sort of want to sell you something, but we don't want to sell it to you. We want you to learn it via the website and get in touch with us. So the whole soul and focus thing is really appropriate to the way we would like to. We don't want to steal anybody's focus. We want to draw it to where it needs to be anyway.
So the website's a tool to access the resources, but then for you to deliver your own version, your own outcome in the real world. And the outcome is not the bricks and mortar. The outcome is the home.
It's certainly not, the outcome is certainly not the website.
No.
It's not even the final, what might be seen as the final product, the house.
No.
It's not the dwelling, it's the community.
Yeah, and the home is not the bricks and mortar, it's the relationships within this space, which are likely up to 5 unrelated individuals who share common interests and goals and expectations, respecting privacy, having, the Saturday night sing-along, whatever. That's the experience.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
What do you think, Darren?
I've tried to, I've tried to turn off a lot of my CPU work to see whether anyone can hear what I'm saying.
You're better.
So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, obviously, a website has really morphed from where it was, certainly with its original, premise or idea, and hopefully, then we can be more a resource center rather than necessarily just be out there trying to capture someone's interest. So, on the website, which I might share soon, we actually obviously use the name of our not-for-profit being People, Purpose, Place in that order. What's some reasons why we've started with people first?
Because the people come first. That's why. They also come last. If the people aren't the center focus, if it's the building that's the center focus, or whether you have a marble bench top or you don't, I'm not sure that's really where we're headed. I think we're headed to people, and the purpose of the people coming together, and the place is the third place. It's the least important. I mean, it's essential. You have to have a place. If you're going to solve some of these housing problems, you got to bloody well build a house or convert a house or create a house in some way. But the people come first. And the purpose is the creation of the home, not the house. That's the way I see it.
And we are social creatures. So we are all about our relationships and interpersonal relationships and connection with our community and others. And if we address that at the outset and set parameters that work for, which will vary by household. Now, this household might be the grumpy old men, and they have a grumpy old men kind of persona, and everyone is forewarned. Don't expect P's and Q's. Don't expect social graces. But heck, they can fix a small mower, and happy to do so on a Saturday morning when I can't get the whippersnipper started. So, there's still a place for that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And when we started talking about people, we came up with the idea of using the concept of creating avatars. And this has probably been a little tiny bit maybe confusing for some. Why have we sort of tried to include some avatars or the idea of an avatar on the site?
It's an interesting one, and the word itself has troubled my dad. He's an older generation, of course, so he's approaching 80, and he just can't get my head around this word. And I get it. It's a expansion, change, different to how he would have if he ever came across the word in his younger life. So the language changes over time. So he's quite disconnected from the particular word. But we find that that's useful to talk to like-minded groups, and groups might be we're a Sikh population, or we're an older women at risk of homelessness population, or so there's probably, I was listening to the media talking about the fact that teachers in Brisbane Metro City cannot live in Brisbane Metro City because they can't afford it on teachers' salaries.
No.
So we've got this group who are educators of the brightest of the city centres kids who have to commute from the burbs because they can't afford to participate in the property in the Brisbane city. And you go, well, there's a group right there.
Yeah.
And there's something wrong with that. There's something morally, financially, and almost spiritually wrong with that.
Now, a group might evolve from a collection of 5 schools who want to have one of their emerging teachers just out of, freshly graduated, started work at these schools, and we don't want them commute. We want them to enjoy community in our space, and here's a way to facilitate that.
Great.
And that might be an impermanent solution for each of those teachers, but it gives them back the commute time every day, and embeds them in the local community. Now, that's got to benefit the school. It's got to benefit those early graduates. That's just one example where it may have traction.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
there are a zillion avatars who could be attracted to this. And of course, I'm in the old ladies aging in place bracket. Well, there are an awful lot of us, and more and more every day.
And when we start thinking that I fit this avatar, we then spend 2 seconds further thinking about that and go, oh, actually, I'm not a keen fisherman. These guys are all fishermen, and I'm not. So maybe I don't fit with that group. And we get down to our individual things. But largely, a home that thrives will still have to have individual differences. And it's okay for those 4 to be fishermen, but I'm not. Or someone doesn't barrack for my football team, that's okay. There's a level at which all we need for this to work is enough. We don't need perfection.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know whether you can see, have you seen the website pop up on any of your screen tabs there as being shared or not?
Nope. No, I'm not seeing it.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, cool. Yep, that's okay. So I was just attempting to share some of that because you picked out one of the avatar groups, Rowan, that probably clearly crosses across what we are trying to articulate as, community workers underpin everything about our society. And the fact that they're actually being locked out because they may be in a lower income bracket, which means the people who are actually looking after and keeping everything rolling as a society can't afford to live in that society, which is just catastrophic of those who are giving so much to everyone around them are just being isolated or, stopped from getting access. So that makes a lot of sense. I had a question when we started doing the avatars that I wondered about, what happens if you don't find you? So what happens if you're looking at the avatar groups and you go, well, there's young professionals there. What if I'm a young student or my parents see this and go, how do I look after my children? At the moment, they're going onto a campus, which isn't a good environment, and we're paying, $500 a week to have them there. So what happens if from an avatar point of view, you can't really see yourself in those avatars?
I guess the selection of avatars, you're exactly right. We can't be exhaustive and have every answer on the website. But the collection is intended to be sufficiently broad that we see a few examples that might have some similarities. There's older, there's younger, There's financial demographic, lower income, or there's so we can start to get a feel for how avatars work. And then the beauty is, if you look in your own personal network, you'll probably paint your own avatar fairly easily. Hey, I choose to hang out with these kind of people. We happen to be World of Warcraft gamers, and that's all we do. But there's 5 of us, and we're all every 6 months struggling to find a new place to rent. And the first thing is, what's the NBN connection like? And no one can actually work that out until we move there. Then we move there. We spent 3 months trying to get the connection to work, and now I've got 4 months before I move out again. That's the struggle of the World of Warcraft gamer.
Yeah.
Well, there's a very specific group avatar right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. One that I wouldn't know how to even paint the picture for. You've just done more for that than I mean, I'd never thought of those aspects. Good for you, Rowan. Feeling in somebody else's needs.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for you.
And I suppose as we find those groups too, we can add those examples to the avatar page, so that others who are like that can hopefully develop. And one thought that I had is that, as we found quite often, a lot of these groups might not be fully formed, right? So they might be 2 or 3 people. Even when we had Matty Vienna on previously, he had that situation where, he was talking to other people about, hey, the other groups of young families who can't afford to buy property, maybe they could come together and look at buying a property as raise the village. But as those examples are created, we can put them out there. But also, so if you're, 2 people into or 3 people into a 5-person household, maybe we can use the site to identify that. Absolutely. So that people can go, hey, my geographical location says I'm interested in being in the Atherton Tablelands. I have an affinity for the environment. I'd like to be a custodian of a property. And this is generally my value system. Then others can go, well, hey, that's a person I'd like to be around. Can we start that journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I think 2 is probably a minimum starting point. You've started to form a group, and absolutely having those conversations and articulating some of our values and what we're looking for in our ideal home will draw other people in. And I suspect some of that is, I love my mum, but I don't want her living in my house.
Yeah.
So our nearest and dearest intimate circle won't be all of the usual suspects. They may all be not related, or you may have a brother but not the other brother, or all of these things make sense.
Yeah.
Until it starts with articulating it between your own ears and putting it on paper that someone else can agree to and go, yeah, that rings true for me.
Well, and also what's really in your heart, because it isn't just what we think, it's what we feel and what we, that our whole experience of childhood comes back for where you want to, what kind of group you want to end up in. And so it's, it's a pretty deep subject. And I love it that you're constraining it to the cognitive, because that's easier to think about. But when you feel into it, we all have really deep urgings and needs about housing, homing, privacy, and society, or sociability. And boy, we need to be able to define that.
Lots of them will be unconscious, Christine. So
that's the problem.
All that baggage we're carrying around is formulated in our very early years, and
most of it
we wouldn't readily have access to it, that's how we get around on a daily basis. You can't get out of bed and get out the door for work without having a whole bunch of biases and pre-programmed things in there, or else you can't make the first decision about what pants to put on. So
exactly.
it's necessary for us to function. And the reason I refer to the logic is it's relatively easy to pick up and start with. Absolutely, at a deeper level, we have to get to our heart and our feelings and our emotive responses. And why is it that every time I walk past the fridge, I pull the door open and stick my head inside? I'm not actually hungry. But my parents, the first thing they gave me was food. And that gave me, as an infant baby, a really good reassurance, that the world's going to be okay, a reassurance of safety. So every time I do that, there's some degree to which I'm going back to that connection at infant. I'm trying to undo that connection with my child.
Yeah, we all need to undo that one. What's in here?
Hello, what's in there?
I put it there. I should know.
That's right. That's right.
But the reassurance.
The really cool thing is I haven't even had to ask the next question, because the next question was, how do you foster your own purpose? And I think you've really alluded to that, which is somewhat of diving into your own idiosyncrasies and understanding yourself at a greater value can maybe help you understand where your blind spots are, but also hopefully identify what becomes important to you when you really sink into that, what is actually for me as an individual. And then that might also help with the idea that we come together as a group. How can you move your purpose to sort of blend with a group's purpose? And that's where hopefully the toolbox applications can help people work on, well, a group, how do we have that alignment? And I really like that. It's unlikely you're going to find the perfect five for you, floating around in your local geographical area, going to be a perfect fit. So I really like that idea that Diane Hamilton Musso, did I get that right, Christine? I must have gone
Musso
close
Hamilton,
sooner or later.
Diane Musso
Musso Hamilton, yeah. She touched on the idea that it's good to both understand your similarities, but also your differences.
Yeah, totally.
And maybe that's a way to get better alignment, is to get the idea that there's things that are going to bring us together and there's things that make a difference, and how do we blend those two things?
But that's really the point of the toolbox. We do make reference to the toolbox, and the toolbox is really a toolbox of practices that make it easier for people to understand each other and to come to decisions that really make sense for all of the inhabitants without having to have a huge amount of friction. Now, there's always going to be some friction, but this whole toolbox is about having the tools at your disposal to have a deeper and deeper and more secure and safe relationship with the people around you. Have I got that right? I mean, I think that's the purpose of the toolbox. Yeah. So it's not, it's the monkey wrench for the soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it should evolve and progress over time. So we will start with sufficient to get going today, and this is why we have this revisit on a very minimum of an annual basis. We sit down and go, okay, we set out these agreements, these values, these expectations, and in 12 months, there's all this time that's passed, and there will be a bunch of transgressions, and this doesn't work, and that, and we no longer take the wheelie bin out on Wednesdays, we do blah, 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 whatever. So that needs to refine, and absolutely the sense of home and the sense of purpose, to my way of thinking, is a growing and evolving beast. It's not a fixed destination that we moved in on day one and we're all going to revegetate this block of land. It's, hey, we have these values, these purposes, this general thing that will progress over time.
And the toolbox will help us progress smoothly over time.
Yeah.
Is that, yeah.
You pick up the bits as you need.
And I also like the idea that as groups start to go through this journey, that they'll have lessons as we've been learning over the last couple of years. Hey, how do we add another layer to this toolbox? And the hope is that everyone who's involved in it will also add layers to it. You know, we've tried this, you know, group meditation, or we've gone for a hike together, or we've tried building structures as a way to build a group, or whatever might be the case. And then everyone can share, hopefully, from that learning to be able to have a, you know, some more tools that they can try at different times to continue their journey. Because, you know, a group's not just going to be formed and then everyone will sing Kumbaya for the rest of time, are they?
Yeah. No. No, and some of those tools are excessively simple. So you've pointed out a few that are a little easier to grasp, but something as simple as the injunction to try to listen better, or to say yes and instead of yes but. You know, there are some very, very simple ones that we're just not used to, that have to do with making behavior flow a little better amongst a group.
Yeah, exactly. And moving on to the third place, which was well put, Christine, I like that. And why it's last, you know, everyone always wants to jump to the place because it seems to be what everyone feels most comfortable with. And that's, you know, talking about the housing, not the homing, which I think once you really sit with it, you do realize that it is definitely more about homing, and the place is almost, you know, just where all of that homing actually occurs. But, you know, what examples do you think, in the fullness of time, what examples do you think of what a place could be where groups could form and thrive? What do you think could be things that could work, Rowan?
I guess, again, some of this was in preparation for this political conversation this morning, that we have such a vast amount of Australia's wealth resource tied up in 10 million existing homes. That's half of our private wealth in the
Is it a half? Wow. Existing wealth.
And it doesn't necessarily mean throwing all that in the bin and starting again. This is complementary, woven within the existing infrastructure, not necessarily to replace it. In many cases, it will be an upgrade of an existing thing for a higher yield. So I'm an investor, I have a thing, it's underperforming for whatever reason, and I would like it to use it for a higher purpose. I'm an ethical investor. Instead of putting the money overseas in the share market, I'd like to invest locally. How could I get more out of this? What if you could make above market returns and do X, Y, Z? There's a fit. So it's the place in the perfect vision, to my mind, would be occurring in streets and suburbs that exist today. So we're not talking about necessarily greenfield new suburbs, where we would want more engaged community, neighbours and membership around us. So it happens to be in our street, there is a group of 5 older women who every Saturday morning they do their own preserves and cooking class and invite the community to come along and attend. And I'm a single mum, and I'm really stuck needing childcare on a Wednesday afternoon for my work shift. And I know that there's those 5 older ladies there. In an emergency, I could reach out. And we would all love that in our neighbourhood. There's the old grumpy crackers on the corner that I know about, and I walk the other side of the street because they're a bit grumpy. But I can't get this damn whippersnapper started, and I know they can make motors work, so I'm going to go duck down to them and put up with the discomfort of their gruffness and have my whippersnapper sorted out. We would all want that in our street.
Yeah.
We would all want in our street those 5 teachers from 5 schools across our regional area who have just completed their degrees. They're just getting into the workforce and paying off enormous HECS debt. How exciting that is.
How
But instead of
exciting.
them commuting an hour each way, 5 days a week,
Take a walk to work.
put those 10 hours back into our community, whether it be them walking the dog and interacting with those grumpy old blokes and giving them a sense of civility or whatever, right? It's a
Or
benefit.
the cranky old ladies, whichever.
We all want that in our street.
Yeah.
So for me, the place is in our existing housing stock, suburbs, communities, and some places stand out needing it more than others. It's probably not the highest priority for Bondi Beach. I suspect at $4.5 million average price point, those people are doing their own thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's okay.
Yeah.
How about the street where there's a DV victim who feels she can't leave the abusive household?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that street might have 5 bikers to straighten out. No, it doesn't have 5.
Your imagination is running away with you.
I'm getting ahead of myself.
I think you have pointed out some important things there, and one of those things is, one of the comments that Riley made when he was on the podcast was around that whole "not in my backyard" sort of a conversation. But me just listening to what you said then, and I'm like, absolutely, I would want all of those groups in my backyard, maybe except the bikies, but they got a position or whatever. So there's no doubt that what you've said there is something that I would want in my backyard, and it feels like those things would enrich our society. And I think what you're saying makes a hell of a lot of sense with, there is a place for large blocks of land for people to want more. There is opportunity for people who do want to go into the newer areas but want to have something that's suitable for their budget. But you can also see that certainly, government has always been about how do we use our infrastructure better, and we've already got these pieces of infrastructure there. I think the important thing that we've realised is that those properties still need to be customised to suit this idea that we are all individuals. We need a place to be an individual in a place that can help us build communitas. And that's actually stealing Jamie Wheel's term too, Christine. So I think that balance of still enabling us, no matter where the place is, somewhere that we can be a person, an individual, but embrace our sense of community and communitas, I think is the balancing bit.
You raised the point about designed fit for purpose or designed to suit. And I think one example that crystallizes this for me is of the 10 million homes in Australia, there is about 10 million of them that have a master bedroom. Now, when you have a shared housing scenario, and the master bedroom is the master one, don't you know? Language is really important. Yep. And it happens to have an ensuite connected to it, and it happens to have the best security, outlook, whatever. You cannot unengineer that completely, but you can repurpose and consider and level out the playing field in many cases, so that there isn't the whole, I want the bedroom that doesn't get the western sun and roasts in the afternoon, or all of those things that go on. The example we're building at, and the advantage is that it's a brand new build, is in Malanda is gorgeous because it gives such an equivalence to each person.
Yeah, everyone's the same. Yeah. And are we able to put this across on our website? Because this conversation started with the website. These are quite complex. They're complex bits of ideation that
Yeah.
really are difficult to put across, because websites are really good at selling this particular product, and you can differentiate it from that particular product by this particular set of ingredients or set of whatever, or price point or whatever. And we're really looking for something that's much more flexible and customizable. But how do we get the general purpose of the customizability into the website? I think that's a big trick. It's not just about grabbing your attention, it's about educating whoever turns up, such that we can such that these more complex bits of the whole puzzle can be dredged into, such that you're not sort of thinking, oh, this is just going to be a walk in the park, and here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's the simple steps, and off we go. Yeah. Everything human beings do is more complicated than that. I don't know why this wouldn't be.
And I think the average time that people spend on any website would be seconds, not even minutes.
This is the problem.
So we need to lay a trail of breadcrumbs so that people can pick up little snippets and bits, and clearly they won't pick up them in the correct order, so that people will gravitate necessarily to this place and have this conversation about place. What does it look like? How many bedrooms is it? How many square meters? What size land do I put this on? So they'll be the first handful of questions they ask there, and that'll be their attention span is gone. So they'll drift away, and 6 months later find the site again and go, oh, here's that site. Hopefully some of that has stuck, and they pick up another few breadcrumbs and then wander off away and digest that and get distracted by a cat video and come back 3 months later.
So we can steal their focus again.
Exactly.
Thank you, Johan. All right.
Yeah. And I think actually, when you said that, it almost sounded John Vervaeke uses stealing society as one of the statements he uses. I don't understand a tenth of what he says, but he's obviously a genius. And I think he uses the word stealing as in two terms: stealing society as in stolen, but also making it stronger. So I think you're right, and I wonder whether also we need to. I'm really hoping that as we get closer, that we can also start to have the workshops as maybe their introduction. If you go to have a bite and you find out, I can't eat this elephant because it is a little bit too much for me, is there a way that I can potentially start off a small bite, which is, hey, jump into the workshop. They're going to be run regularly. Hopefully you can start off seeing how you as an individual form part of that end solution. So I think, there's some real challenge there, but hopefully if we can give people enough ways, and that we must give thanks to Seamus as well for all of his hard work in regards to this, because he actually highlighted that. And I think, he actually highlighted that, and we'll probably see when you get onto the website, there's 5 different ways to access the one piece of information. So whether it be a mind map or the normal menu system, or to watch a video or to do whatever, some of that motivation has come from Seamus saying, hey, you've got a big pineapple of a thing you're trying to talk about here. How can we provide lots of ways for people to eat that that might be suitable for them? So a couple of last questions before we sort of finish up. Who can actually benefit from accessing this site?
The website?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, anyone who is searching for, yearning for a new way of approaching housing and homing. And that could be people who are in financial stress, who are in emotional stress. And I don't mean, a mental condition, like you're stressed out to the point you can't function, but all of us are in some kind of stress at this point. So how do we resolve that? That we have to resolve financial stress, emotional stress, and compatibility, and a whole lot of other things that really are going to make the difference.
Yep. Rowan, who do you think?
I'm actually confident that anybody could pick up some tools and some benefit from the site just in content alone. But for me, still the greatest outcome, and this is why the passion for me is as a professional outcome. If I could do this for the end of my days, that would be a great use of my life.
Your purpose.
Greater human relations that will start at a household level will naturally be greater humans in the workplace. There'll be greater humans down the local sports club. There'll be greater humans everywhere in our community, and we need that. We have a dearth of leadership and innovating, and we've become completely option A or option B in this housing system. You either get a unit or you get a detached thing over here. By the way, it's an hour, to and from work, and there's no infrastructure there, so you have to commute an hour to the hospital. That's how it is. That's going to continue. It's got momentum. It's going to exist, and that's fine. I'm absolutely convinced that homes where you don't burn 10 hours a week commuting, where you have some like-minded individuals with a purpose, that purpose will endure beyond you. So you leave a legacy of more people like me doing my work in perpetuity, struggle with that word, in perpetuity, because they see the value in greater human outcomes. That could be, community changing forever, and a beautiful journey to be on.
I'm going to make a comment now because I had this even with today. I had the mindfulness. It really hasn't helped me get out of the funk that much, to be honest with you. And I would like to give gratitude to you, Rowan, to giving the energy that I think both Kristen and I need. I'm speaking for both of us, but I shouldn't be. But for giving us the energy and the excitement that we all feel, but sometimes don't express. And maybe this is exactly why People Purpose Places here, is that the sum of us of individuals is sometimes never going to be enough, but the group experience is enough. And I thank you for your content today, because it's been invaluable and uplifting for me in this journey as well. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely, more than welcome. Absolutely. It's it's been a journey. Each of us get here on our own path, right? And I'm a very, very ordinary human with a very ordinary path. There is nothing exceptional about a 54-year-old bloke who's done my stuff. But the ability to bind groups together and to see a greater human outcome, People Purpose Place can absolutely deliver that.
And that's worthwhile, absolutely.
Seems
bounce out of bed.
Worthwhile.
Yeah, bounce out of bed every morning, 5 a.m. Let's get into it.
Yeah. And I don't think there could be a better spot to actually to finish on, and specifically considering we're talking about something quite technical in the way of a website. It's actually been quite an inspiring conversation about what could be, and hopefully when people get to see the website in the next couple of weeks, they can start to engage with us and use some of those resources to see what that best version of them looks like.
Totally. And I think that's a really good point, that we're all about the engagement. So we put out these thoughts and this content, the website, podcast, whatever it is, welcoming feedback. You know, I'm an ordinary human being with a whole bunch of, you know, strengths and weaknesses. And if I've said anything wrong, offensive, whatever, I stand to be corrected. You know, please come forward and say, hey, this fact's wrong, or, you know, it needs to be that way, and let's have that conversation.
Yes, let's have the conversation.
Yeah.
And not just a chatter conversation, but deep conversation that matters.
Yeah, very good point, Chris.
Mm.
Awesome. Well, yeah, we do have a big week this week, so I'm looking forward to it as well, and looking forward to catching up more this week, and then see you all next week in this digital world. And thanks very much for everyone's time.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thank you. See you later.
See ya.